Good afternoon. This is Dan Moulis, Superintendent for the Hudson School District. I want to thank HCTV for having us here today. I have some special guests with me today from Hudson Memorial School that have just returned from the Washington, D.C. trip. I have Principal Keith Bowen. I have Kim Bourassa, Social Studies teacher, Leonie Kirby, math teacher. And I want to thank them. Both Kim and Leonie are also our Washington, D.C. coordinators for the 8th grade field trip. And so today's broadcast is really talking about a wonderful experience that we provide to our 8th graders. So I'm going to open it up to you, and thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it. You just returned from the Washington, D.C. trip, our nation's capital, late last week. And tell us a little bit about what this year's trip was like.
It was good. We had beautiful weather, so it wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold, so the kids weren't sweating and passing out, so which was good. Yeah. So it was a good trip. We did the memorials. We did
monuments,
yeah,
all the
monuments.
Smithsonian museums. Yep. We were able to fit a lot into this year's trip.
Excellent, excellent, wonderful. And then this year, what kind of events and tours did you and the students enjoy throughout the week? And Leonie, you mentioned a couple of the different spots and venues, but Leonie, Kim, and Keith, what were some of the different events this year?
There was a couple that are a highlight for kids every year. We go to Uvar Hazy, the Air and Space Museum up there by Dulles Airport. They get to see one of the former space shuttles, the Discovery, which they love. They enjoyed that part. We also do what's called a Twilight Tattoo on, I believe it's Wednesday nights every year. It's like a pageant that the Army puts on. It's a song and dance show, and they kind of do the history of the Army throughout, from when it began to current times. And they love that show.
It's very interactive, very engaging for the kids.
Yeah, that's great.
I had a lot of students say they enjoyed Mount Vernon and walking through George Washington's home.
Excellent.
Yeah, they really enjoyed that.
As a former social studies teacher, I love to hear all the different components that tie in civics and history.
Yeah.
It sounds like this was a wonderful trip.
This year's kids had a unique experience too at Mount Vernon, where they were able to see George Washington's bedroom restored to as it was when he passed away that day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was the first time that our school has actually had that opportunity.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. What a great experience for our students.
And we managed to get to the Smithsonian's, the American History Museum, the Natural History Museum, and the students really enjoy seeing all the different exhibits in there as well.
Excellent, excellent. And this connects to the last question. What types of lessons are students learning about during their time there in the nation's capital?
So it connects straight to social studies. So we do a government and civics unit. So I talk about the legislative branch, we talk about the executive branch, and we talk about the judicial branch. So they got to see the Supreme Court, they got to see and do a Capitol tour for the legislative branch, and then they got to see the White House, which is the executive branch. So they got to see all those three branches. So it was a pretty good experience, especially when they go, oh, the president works here, or wait, this is where Senate is and the House is. Yeah. I felt success.
And Library of Congress this year, where they had the Thomas Jefferson book collection from his library, which was fantastic. That was the first.
That was the first too, yeah. It was pretty cool.
Excellent. On our Capitol tour, the students walk into the rotunda and they see all the paintings that portray history, and that's usually pretty exciting for them.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. What a great experience. This trip has been an annual tradition here at Hudson Memorial School for quite a while now. What kind of impact do you think this trip has had on our students and the community as a longstanding school tradition?
So this trip began around 1980. Social studies teacher, Hudson Memorial School, Dick Turner, started this trip. And it quickly grew into something that was coveted by all of our students that come through Hudson Memorial School. Kids come back and talk about this trip 20, 30 years after going on the trip. I'm 53 years old. I went on the trip when I was 14 back in 1987. So I still have fond memories of that and what it was like to be with your friends in a hotel room for the first time in your life and learn how to be like a roommate with somebody. Then you start to remember like the experiences you had at different places and how they're very similar over time. And you could be a generation separated and have a conversation and you connect right away with that person because they remember the same similar feeling and experience from when they were on the trip.
Great.
It's a good answer.
I was going to say, Kim or Leonie, anything else to add to that?
No, it's fun to see like when parents show up that night and they're like, I remember the last time I was in this gym, it was for this exact meeting. And I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah. So it's a nice connection.
I was just upstairs. I passed through the senior center to come here, and one of the women at the front desk was a parent, was the mom of a friend I went to the trip with, and that's all she talked about was the DC trip with me upstairs, and how wonderful that experience was, and how great it was, because she knew I was just on the trip last week. So it transcends generations.
That's great to hear. And the fact, Keith, as you said, that this trip's been around since 1980 is just a testament to the long-standing tradition of this trip, which is wonderful.
Ms. Bourassa and I will often see former students and students that have moved on to Alvern, and they're like, "We remember you from our DC trip," and so it definitely stands out in their memories.
That's great. That's great. For you personally, what did you enjoy most during this trip?
I enjoy it all, just because I do history. I feel like that's a cheap answer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's exciting to be there and be part of history and be part of your government in action, kind of. You start to walk through buildings and you start to feel the pulse of the city as you're there.
To see the kids,
Yes.
Yeah.
like the look on their face,
The
like when
awe.
they look, the awe of how big the building is, or the Mount, the Washington Monument, when they're looking out, they that's really tall. Yes, it is. So to see the grandiose and see their face, I think is probably my most enjoyable. That was so cool. We just saw that.
I enjoy the
Yeah.
walking too. We walk a lot. Kids don't enjoy it as much, but we enjoy it.
Yeah, getting our steps in.
Well, it sounds like you had a great week of weather too.
Yes.
That makes a huge difference when the weather's cooperating.
Yep.
I think seeing the students connect it back to what they've learned and seeing them, like Ms. Bourassa said, when they talk about this is the House, this is the Senate, and they're like, oh, we talked about that, we learned about that, and having them make those connections, I think, especially being outside of their home community, that's important for them to make that connection.
That's great. That's great. Lastly, what do you hope, and you all have alluded to this, what do you hope that students can take away from this experience every year? Your number one hope that you hope that they have as a takeaway?
I think inspire them to travel, inspire them to keep learning. It literally is like this learning active field trip of I learned this and now let's take a look at it. And I think that's oftentimes like the
I also think the pride and understanding of how lucky they are to be citizens of this country and how it began and where we're at now and how lucky they are to have a voice in that.
And I think it also brings a lot of independence to some students too, that like they are themselves for a full week, their choices and their decisions, and they come back a little bit more grown up every year.
Yeah.
So I think that independence piece that they build along the way too.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. Having spent a lot of years being an 8th grade social studies teacher and having gone on the trip myself and talking with Principal Bowen and Ms. Bourassa with you and Ms. Kirby with you, that also having been an assistant principal and a principal that went on the Washington, D.C. trip, it's a great experience. And the fact that all of you fostered this experience for our students to learn more about law and government, civics, and the history of this country. And Keith, as you said, that this is a trip that has been a longstanding tradition since 1980, really says a lot. And so thank you for being so supportive. I know there's a lot of work that goes in leading up to the trip with the itinerary.
We've already started again.
And already starting again and just
Yeah.
returning, planning for next year, the itinerary and the events. And I know there's a lot of coordination that goes into that. So thank you. And any last comments you want to say to the audience, to the community about upcoming students that will be thinking, as they're getting ready to attend this trip in the future?
So as the 8th grade curriculum shifts, we're going to be adding in either Manassas. There's going to be a change for next year.
Okay.
And so come on, sign on up, because I think it's going to be a new adventure for the adults. Because 2 years ago we added in Fort McHenry, which was pretty fun. I've never seen it, and so it's the second year that we did it. So we're just trying to add in some newer things that just continue to connect with the curriculum. So Civil War, here we come.
Okay.
Gettysburg,
Yep.
Liberty Bell, those are places we pass along the way.
Yeah.
So that's part of the conversation.
Yeah, we have some options.
That's great.
So it's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for being here and being part of this television show today to share a little bit with the community about the Washington, D.C. trip. Again, thank you to Hudson Cable TV for always allowing us the opportunity to share different events and different school opportunities that we have in each of our schools. And again, Ms. Bourassa, Ms. Kirby, Principal Bowen, thank you for being here and sharing a little bit of the highlights from the Washington, D.C. trip.